The most recent disclosures in the New York Times, not at all refuted by the Obama administration, they take pride in it, shows that the president claims and exercises authority to survey every species individual on the planet. If he says, you're an imminent danger to the United States, you get vaporized. Predator drone. Any judicial review? No. Any congressional review? No. Any disclosure of the profile of the intelligence that justifies the finding you're one of the terrorists we're going to vaporize? No. All secret. What we call a combination of legislative, executive, judicial power, plus being executioner, all in one man, which the Founding Fathers described in Federalist 47 as the very definition of tyranny. Now think of that. The whole reason we had the Declaration of Independence and fought the War of the American Revolution was what? To end the tyranny of King George III. And now we're practicing exactly what we revolted against some 225, 230 years ago. And where is the Congress? The invertebrate branch, other than Congressman Jones. You know? And what's so stunning is that you don't need to do archaeological expeditions to find the evidence of the impeachable offense. It's in the front pages. It's openly confessed. Now, many suggest, oh, impeachment sounds like a coup d'etat. Like third-only banana republics do impeachment. At the Constitutional Convention, Ben Franklin said, no, impeachment is a substitute for assassination to rid yourselves of Tyre. It is a substitute for Brutus and Cassius plotting against Julius Caesar. So it is the civilized way in which we don't impose criminal punishment. It's simply ouster of office. We cannot trust you with the reins of power anymore. That's why it's my judgment, it really is quite obtuse to suggest, to think about impeachment as some kind of revolutionary idea. No, it's the first time to civilianize, to domesticate the kinds of convulsions that typically happen when you've got to change a regime from abuse of power. And then you have the astonishing testimony of the legal advisor of the State Department, Mr. Harold Koh, formerly a great critic of executive power when he was dean of Yale Law School. You know? And then it's kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but he didn't need a potion. You know? He's there now, the legal advisor at the State Department. And he's testifying as to why Libya and the Tomahawk missiles, the bombings, not a conflict. It's not hostilities within the meaning of the War Powers Act. He says, well, our pilots are at such high altitudes, they're not in danger of being shot down. Oh, well, that's a nice analysis. So if we used ICBMs with nuclear warheads to kill and destroy every living, breathing thing in Libya, and we shot the missiles from the United States, no hostilities, right? No war. Our people aren't in danger. You could blow up the whole world, kill 1.5 billion Japanese, no warfare. I mean, is that Orwellian or not? No, this is the Ministry of Peace and the Ministry of War. Flip it. And instead of being insulted, no, the Congress accepts that. Congress accepts that.
How many members of Congress have signed on to the concurrent resolution?
I believe there's 10 or 11, and most of them are Republican, not Democrats. Large, and I think, and the reason is, again, the partisanship. You know, we can't do anything that undercuts President Obama, just like there was on Bush, the other side.
And the second is, if you believe it's such a clear-cut case that going to war without consulting Congress is an impeachable offense, how come no one has introduced an impeachment resolution against the president?
Well, I don't know. I've drafted one relating to Libya. It's been printed in Politico, but not in Congressional Record yet. Again, these are political maneuvers, but maybe it makes sense to do that in the lame duck session, because at least it would set a standard to compare what might happen in Iran or Syria. Those are the most imminent possibilities for presidential wars. But the larger question is an insightful one. Why shouldn't an impeachment resolution be introduced? Part of it, I think, is there's still a backlash from Clinton, which people thought was an instance where impeaching a president over sex, and we had all the people like Gingrich and others with minor indiscretions or youthful indiscretions who were sitting on the impeachment committee, so the optic wasn't very favorable. And so for that reason, the idea of impeachment wrongly fell into disrepute. And therefore, people don't want to touch it. They think that they'll immediately be branded as fringe, and how could you be so revolutionary? This is coup d'etats and all these mindless, witless statements made to try to avoid the accountability that impeachment ought to bring to the executive branch.
Bruce, let me
Sure.
just a couple of points. First, I think the founders, and there's plentiful evidence for this in their letters, in the Federalist Papers, even in the Anti-Federalists. The founders would be stunned that we haven't thrown a scurrilous bastard out every generation. They'd be absolutely stunned. And they'd be equally stunned at how feckless our use of Article II impeachment powers has been, because it has been feckless, whether we're looking at Andrew Johnson or Bill Clinton or whatever. The second point is more important. This is not about President Obama. He just happens to be the occupant at the moment. Look from 1947 to 2012. This is a natural evolution of power. This is what was going to happen as soon as Harry Truman, on the 26th of July, put his signature to the 1947 National Security Act. George Marshall looked at the president, perhaps the most iconic military figure other than George Washington in American history, and certainly the master of our victory in World War II, and said, Mr. President, I fear we have militarized the decision-making process. Precisely the case we have. Our foreign policy today is our military policy. Unified command commanders around the world make our foreign policy. The 4-star in Hawaii, the admiral sitting in Hawaii, is more important in Tokyo and Beijing than any diplomat. In some cases, even more so than anyone from the White House, other than the president himself. Because he carries with him, when he goes in to see the Prime Minister of Japan, carrier battle groups, aircraft wings, marine amphibious groups, army divisions. The Assistant Secretary of State for Regional Affairs, in this case East Asia and the Pacific, if he can even get in, carries a briefcase empty. That's your country today. A representative from New York said recently at West Point, quote, America should give the world soldiers who ... Is that what America should give the world? Soldiers? That's what we're giving them. And let me tell you, if you read the international news, you read the papers in Tehran, in Damascus, in Beirut, in Cairo, in Tripoli, the rest of the world, which is about 6 billion people, realizes it. And anybody who knows any theory of international relations at all, and any theory of power at all, knows that the rest of the world will eventually marshal its forces and bring us down. It's that simple. That's the way the world works. Every empire in human history is gone. Whether it's the empire of the Khans or the 1,000-year Reich of Adolf Hitler, they're gone. Nowhere in the world is it written in stone that the American empire is an exception, different, and going to last forever. It isn't. What I'm saying is we need to last a little longer than next week. Because we are a potent force for good in the world, not because of the military we thrust upon the world and the bayonets we arm for democracy, but because our values, when they are exemplified and adhered to, really do impact change in the world. Whether it's human rights, human dignity, women's rights, or any of the things that we say we stand for and often by our actions bastardize completely. That's why it's important we stay around for a while. Chaos and anarchy are the alternative. And we're doing our level best to create that chaos and anarchy right now.